Hello! Are you guys ready for some punk rock? Okay, I'm going to do a talk, first of all. There's going to be 4 bands, and my talk is about Frestonia, the nation of punks in the 1970s. There once was a group of squatters who lived in a neighborhood. This isn't particularly extraordinary because everyone lives in some kind of neighborhood. And in the 1970s, where this story is set, there were a lot of people living in squats due to the sheer amount of abandoned buildings and the lack of inspection on the part of the authorities. A neighborhood, when it sprawls and grows, is no better than a mass expanse of desert. A neighborhood must be small. And if a neighborhood is just small enough and compact enough, it can develop a kind of tribal identity. This can graduate to being a kind of national identity, and therefore the neighborhood almost becomes a country. Now we come back to our original group of squatters, for they lived in a neighborhood in Notting Hill, which was already in a country, the country of London. In the 1970s was a vast empire ruled over by the Greater London Council, or GLC. The country of London is itself a country within a country, England, which is itself a country within a country, the United Kingdom. A country must have boundaries, and so our squatters had just 3 streets. Freston Road, the name Freston will become important later, Bramley Road, and Shalfleet Drive. They decided to set their boundaries by declaring independence from the United Kingdom. This was much out of survival as anything else. The GLC threatened them with eviction. It was the year 1977 AD. London, postcode W10. Countries don't just appear overnight. They have to be dreamed into existence. The citizens of this new state of Frestonia, called Frestonians, got their idea from the 1949 film Passport to Pimlico, where archaeologists find a treaty that declares the neighborhood of Pimlico is in fact part of a grand duchy, making it exempt from British law. A country must have a landscape, for England is nothing if not a green and pleasant land. The landscape of Frestonia was a series of terraced houses that were condemned by the GLC. The roofs were taken off by the previous owners, and the windows were filled with corrugated iron. Many of the residents would keep piles of bricks beside their bed in case of burglaries. A soil pipe, which escaped demolition, led to a series of outside toilets. Frestonia was built on slum housing, demolished by the GLC when new estates such as Trellick were built. A country must have a government, and the government of Frestonia consisted of the great actors and artists and drug addicts of the 1970s. The foreign minister being the playwright Heathcote Williams, who would charge £50 to speak to foreign journalists. And once a country has a landscape and boundaries and a government, it must have a national culture and identity. The national culture of Frestonia was one of speed and sniffing glue. The largest building in Frestonia was called the People's Hall, and it was split up into recording studios. The Clash recorded most of the album Combat Rock here. The main strip of Frestonia was essentially a long alleyway which bisected the 3 streets, used by kids from neighbouring estates as a playground, setting fire to many of the local car tyres. The Frestonian National Gallery had exhibitions by the Mutoid Waste Company, who made sculptures out of burnt-out tyres, installations they would eventually re-erect at Glastonbury. And once a country has a landscape and a government and boundaries and a national culture, it must have stamps and elections and a flag. The stamps of Frestonia were accepted finally by Royal Mail. Elections were held and 94% voted to be an independent state, while 73% voted to be part of the European Economic Community. The flag of Frestonia was a blue and red crest on a white background above a motto, Nos somos una familia. We are all one family. Sometimes I have a dream that my Bohemian neighborhood of Fish Island is a country. In this dream, I'm the ruler of this great nation, and I'm traversing its boundaries on my noble steed, a red Santander bike. And I see my loyal subjects wave to me as they paint and graffiti its walls and dance to DJ sets and snort ketamine on plain air. Then I trip on a piece of rubbish strategically not collected by Tower Hamlets Council, and my feet kicks my duvet in a hypnagogic fervour. I wake up. My neighbourhood of Fish Island is not a country, and neither was Frestonia. It never was formally recognised as an independent state by any major organisation. And in 1982, the country of Frestonia was effectively dissolved. Yet the most radical ideas are radical for a reason. They always achieve something. In 1982, the Greater London Council offered all residents of Frestonia permanent housing on the site. Though some residents chose not to compromise their freedom and move on, many of the original residents and their children and grandchildren still reside there today. The housing cooperative was named the Bramley Housing Co-op after the surname Bramley, which was assigned to all 120 members of Frestonia in an effort to get them rehoused together. In London, a city with astronomical prices, perhaps putting a roof over people's heads is one of the most punk rock things that you can do. We've got 4 amazing acts today. First up is Milky. They're from London and they're going to be amazing. They're going to blow you away. Thank you so much.